weeks after awkwardly and abruptly ending the MAGA civil war that he started with Donald Trump, Elon Musk is once again publicly attacking Trump, and more specifically, Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill, which stands on the precipice of passing in the Senate, thanks to some unprincipled capitulation from Republican lawmakers who swore they would never back a bill that cuts Medicaid. Wink, wink. Despite the fact that Democrats are doing everything in their power to delay it. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have a couple of things to look at here. But yeah, Elon Musk is once again getting back into the public spotlight and attacking Trump's signature domestic agenda. Utterly insane, Elon Musk creeps back into politics with brutal attack on Trump-backed Big Beautiful Bill. Elon Musk took aim at Donald Trump's Big Beautiful Bill on Saturday as lawmakers were making their way through a new draft of the budget. Quote, the latest Senate draft bill will destroy millions of jobs in America and cause immense strategic harm to our country, Musk wrote on X just a few weeks after leaving his special government job with Doge. Quote, utterly insane and destructive. It gives handouts to industries of the past while severely damaging industries of the future. There's a copy of the tweet here. Musk's statement came in response to an X post from Jesse Jenkins, noting that the latest draft of the bill, which senators received early Saturday morning, quote, raises taxes on all wind and solar projects that haven't begun construction today unless they're placed service by end of 2027. Musk has criticized the One Big Beautiful Bill before kicking off a war of words between him and Donald Trump. In another Saturday post, Musk referred to the budget bill as, quote, utter madness. Trump's bill passed the House by just one vote and now faces a Senate where a handful of Republicans like Rand Paul and Ron Johnson have said that they are no votes, objecting to the bill raising the debt ceiling. Paul has argued he wants to see an extension of the 2017 tax cuts put into their own bill, as Trump has set a July 4th deadline to pass the budget. Earlier this month, after leaving his Doge role, Musk called the One Big Beautiful Bill an abomination. Quote, this massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it, he said, going on to threaten the seats of those who support it. And of course, triggered that MAGA civil war with Donald Trump. He started it, and I was stunned. I thought it would last longer than it did, but Elon Musk effectively rolled over and capitulated, but not after first alleging that Donald Trump is implicated in the Epstein files. On the topic, though, of the One Big Beautiful Bill, it stands on the precipice of passing. You may recall Republicans have a majority in the Senate. They can afford to lose 3 votes because they have 53 Senate seats to the Democrats' 47. If they lose 3 votes, it becomes a 50-50 tie, and Vice President J.D. Vance can break the tie in favor of Trump. Now, one of my senators, North Carolina's Tom Tillis, says he's going to oppose it. The Senate version of the One Big Beautiful Bill contains significant changes to Medicaid that would be devastating to North Carolina, and I cannot support it. The Senate should go back to the House's common sense approach to Medicaid reform to enact work requirements while protecting care for those who really need it. Of course, work requirements and Republican ease means, again, cutting Medicare. As a matter of fact, Tom Tillis, was sending this flyer around in private caucus meetings with Republicans just a few days ago, showing the impact of the Senate's proposed, or Senate Republicans' proposed changes to Medicaid and how it would impact 600,000, North Carolinians. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. So he says no for now. And so have Rand Paul, and so is Ron Johnson. Okay? You know who said yes after swearing effectively that he wouldn't because he wasn't going to support any bill that does anything to Medicaid? Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley, MAGA populist from Missouri, a darling of some progressive commentators like Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian of the Young Turks, because, again, he fights for the working class, the working man. Damn it, he's going to protect our social safety programs, even though he's a Republican. He's a man of the people. He's a man of principle. Except he's not. But he says he's... So, as people are reporting, we'll get into this in just a second, Josh Hawley says he will vote yes on the bill, but he says he's not pleased that it will, quote, take away health care from working people. Quote, this has been an unhappy episode here in Congress. This effort to cut Medicaid And I think, quite frankly, my party needs to do some soul searching. If you want to be a working class party, you've got to deliver for working class people. You can't take away health care. And this is where we have the clip. The clip. This is so important. We have Holly on camera lamenting the bill that he's about to vote for, that nobody can force him to vote for. He's choosing to vote for because he's afraid of Trump. But I want you to know everything he's complaining about, he's talking about the very bill that he's voting for.
I mean, we can't be cutting health care for working people and for poor people in order to constantly give special tax treatment to corporations and other entities. And we've delayed that in this bill. But it will, unless we take further changes or take further steps, it will happen in future years. And I'm opposed to this. If we're going to be a working class party, we've got to protect working people. And I just, the Medicaid stuff in here, I think is bad. And I think we've delayed the worst of it. And in the short term, for my state, it's going to be fine. But on a going forward basis, we cannot go on like this.
I want you to take what he says at face value here. You shouldn't, because he's a smug, treasonous prick. This is the guy who supported the 2020 January 6th insurrection. Holly says we can't take health care away from working class and poor people. He says what's in this bill is bad. He says we've temporarily delayed it, but if we don't change what's in the future, it's going to be really bad. And the best he can say is, for my state, it's fine. So he acknowledges the bill is bad. He acknowledges the bill does the very thing he says that they should not do. He says that, and again, best case scenario for him, if there isn't radical change, the worst case scenario will happen. And the best he can say about it is it's fine. And he's voting for it anyway. These people are unprincipled. They are an authoritarian cult every single time. You should bet as a general proposition that despite what people like Josh Hawley and Chip Roy in the House, despite the loudness of their bark, when push comes to shove, they might bitch loudly, but they will vote quietly because they're weak and they're cowards and they deserve your contempt. They deserve your contempt. You should not respect them. You should not take a damn thing they say seriously. These are weak, unprincipled losers who should be mocked. And they're voting for it anyway. And you know who else is voting for it? Susan Collins of Maine. Susan Collins of Maine. As a matter of fact, Tim Miller of the Bulwark points out, while that Collins is going to be the deciding vote on this bill, why walk the plank on this turd of all the possible issues? And Susan Collins is an incumbent up for re-election in Maine next year, Maine being a largely blue state. And she is wildly unpopular, especially with independents at the moment, but she feels comfortable enough despite, she's the one who always said famously every time Trump did something terrible, I'm concerned. And she would never actually take action against him legislatively, but she would just say, I'm concerned. So I said, well, for what it's worth, she's concerned. Because that's what it is. She pays lip service. Oh, I'm concerned. Oh, this sucks. But she bends the knee every damn time. Right now, they've lost 3 votes. They need to lose 4. So this thing is on track to pass the Senate. And the reason Collins feels comfortable enough to do this isn't just because she's incumbent, which means you typically have an advantage, not always as an incumbent, but typically. It's because there's really no viable Democratic candidate who has announced that they're running against her in Maine. Janet Mills is the incumbent Democratic governor. I think she's done next year. I think she's term limited. And I thought, well, shit, maybe she should run, but she's 77 years old. We don't want to run into a situation again where we have an octogenarian senator, right? Because they serve for 6 years. And so she would be, and even if she only served 1 term, she'd be what? 83, 84 by the time she left office. We're in a bit of a pickle here. Not totally unworkable, but we need to find a Democrat who can seriously challenge Collins, which should put the fear of God into her legislatively to not simply be a cultist for Trump, which is what she's choosing to be here. Even though this could be devastating for hospitalization, rural hospitalization in particular, and Medicaid cuts in Maine. She's going along with it. Now, in response to this, Democrats are pushing for the bill to be read in its entirety. Elizabeth Warren says Democrats need to use every second to fight back against the big, beautiful bill. I wish you wouldn't call it that. I am helping hold the Senate all night and force a full reading of this 940-page bill. As people note, it will take probably 15 hours, 5 hours to read the bill, and then 10 hours of debate. So this will cause delays and hopefully get attention and allow people to put pressure on. Let's look at this article describing this new version of the bill. Senate Republicans released 940-page bill for Trump's agenda as they race to vote this weekend. Senate Republican leaders are aiming to hold a key test vote Saturday afternoon for their sprawling domestic policy package after releasing the 940-page bill overnight. GOP senators met behind closed doors Saturday afternoon as they raced to pass the sweeping legislation for Donald Trump's agenda by a self-imposed deadline of July 4th, but it continues to face hurdles along the way. It remains unclear if the Republican-controlled Senate has the simple majority needed to move forward, but party leaders told senators that they are eyeing a vote around 4 p.m. Eastern, according to Senator John Kennedy. The legislation would extend the tax cuts Trump signed into law in 2017 and slash taxes on tips and overtime pay. It includes a $150 billion boost to military spending this year, and that's another thing. These MAGA populists were not only going to protect Medicaid, they were going to cut the Pentagon. That's what we were told, and of course they failed to deliver, along with a surge of federal money to carry out Trump's mass deportations and immigration enforcement agenda. It partially pays for that with cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, which is food stamps, and clean energy funding. The bill would add about $4 trillion to the national debt when factoring in higher interest payments, according to an analysis published Saturday by the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, a think tank that supports lower deficits. In other words, a conservative deficit hawk organization. And they're saying, it's going to add $4 trillion. So much for fiscal responsibility. It also contains a $5 trillion increase in the debt ceiling ahead of an August deadline to avert a default on the country's obligations. With a 53-47 majority in the chamber, Republicans can afford just 3 defections on the vote with no hope of winning Democratic support. Republicans are seeking to pass the bill through budget reconciliation process, which allows them to bypass the Senate's 60-vote threshold, again, just needing a simple majority, even if that comes from the Republican vice president breaking the tie. Senate Majority Leader John Thune is hoping to hold a first test vote on the mammoth package Saturday, but is running into problems from rank-and-file Republicans who are trying to pump the brakes. And they go on like this, but as of right now, as of this moment, they have the votes to get it through. We'll see if that changes. But folks, this is not good. This is just not good whatsoever. Now, of course, even if they do pass it in the Senate, it has to go back to the House because there have been some changes from the Senate version to the House version. You have to reconcile those. So it's entirely possible it'll miss Trump's deadline anyway, but maybe not. The fact of the matter is, as a general proposition, you should just assume that Republican lawmakers, be they in the House or the Senate, are an authoritarian cult of personality. It is a Republican cult. It's a cult of personality beholden to Donald Trump. And if there is ever a conflict between their stated principles and Trump, 9 times out of 10, 98 times out of 100, you should just assume that they're going to fold like a napkin. And that is probably why Elon Musk is publicly panicking. Of course, the irony is that Elon Musk empowered the president and the party that is creating this legislation to begin with. So he has a lot of responsibility for this as well. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.